Hello, and welcome to Focus Wherever. In this DIY series video, I'm going to demonstrate a simple way to permanently fix sagging cabinet doors and hinge screws that are always coming loose, using just a few basic tools and supplies. So with that as the goal, let's get focused. As you can see here, these doors are not lining up properly because the hinges on this side, where they attach to the cabinet frame, are not tight. And this DIY is meant to address hinges that, even if they're tightened, within a matter of weeks or months, just loosen themselves up again. So on this side we have no issue. If I put a little force on the door, there's no play or wobble, and it closes without any issue. On the other side, as soon as you start to open it, it droops down. Again, you can see we're going to have to address the top and bottom on this one, and when you go to close it. So the most common cause of this is from the original cabinet installer. The wood of the body of these cabinets is not particularly strong, and the installers often go at them, these screws, with power tools and over torque them and strip out the wood to the point where there's essentially no clamping force happening inside there. So today we're going to do a permanent fix for this. It's a two-step process with some drying time for some glue, but the total time it takes to get these right really isn't that much. Here's a little closer look at the screw we're going to be fixing. This one right here, again, the screw that fastens the hinge to the frame of the cabinet. Here are our supplies. Not much to it. The most critical things are the toothpicks. The more plain the better, so that the glue can really anchor itself to the texture of the toothpick. But just ordinary toothpicks, gather up a few of them. I like to use a syringe that you can pick up from your local pharmacy to help get the glue into the hole where we're going to be putting the toothpicks in. And a knife, screwdriver, drill, of course some glue. Not all of these are absolutely critical. They'll just make it a little bit easier, to clean up. What is critical is the toothpicks, the glue, the screwdriver, and something to cut. Scissors, X-Acto knife, box cutter, pocket knife, anything that can cut away the toothpicks once we're done with those. Alright, we're ready to get started, and the first thing we're going to do is remove the cabinet door from the cabinet. I'm going to focus on the lower hinge so you can see that in detail, but the procedure is identical for top and bottom. So get these screws out so we can get the door away. Okay, set the door aside. You want to take a look at your screws to kind of get a sense of how deep into the cabinet frame that they're going, because we're going to drill a couple different times. One, in order to clean up the hole and give ourselves just a tiny bit more space to get these toothpicks in. And then once the toothpicks are set up and dried, we'll come back and we'll drill a small pilot hole in order to get these screws in to finish the job. So the reason I have the tape is to set my depth for how deep I want to drill. So, tear off a piece of tape. So we're gonna just only need to go about that deep to clean this up. So here are my two drill bits. The one in the drill at the moment, again, we're going to use to clean up the hole a little bit. And a slightly smaller one for the pilot hole that'll come later. Again, the tape is there to help us set the drill depth. The size of drill bit you need to use for both the hole cleanup and the pilot hole really depend on how big your screws are. With the holes drilled, next I like to take a second to pull out any dust that may be sitting in there with the vacuum. Clean up what has fallen on the floor of the cabinet. Now we're ready to test fit the toothpicks. So we'll start with 3 toothpicks. Get them bundled together and okay, so 3 looks pretty good. You don't need them ultra tight. You gotta leave a little room for the glue, but that's why I like to use the syringe, because that lets me, before the toothpicks are in place, get some glue a little further back in there, so that if my toothpicks are pretty snug as they go into the hole, that it's just not shearing off all the glue, leaving nothing, actually no glue in the hole. Okay, we've got some wood glue loaded into the syringe. We're just going to push a little bit into the hole. You can use your finger to kind of force it back in there a little bit more. If you have a damp paper towel handy, makes it easy to clean up your fingers and clean up any that's wanting to drip out of the hole. When we put these toothpicks in, it is going to force a little bit out of the hole. A tiny bit on the toothpicks themselves. Again, not too much, because it's going to push it off a little bit. So I'm starting with 2. Get the third one. Push them in there with a little force so they're well seated, and use a paper towel to clean up any extra glue. So I'm taking a look at the top hinge location now, the top hole, and after you use your syringe, or if you're not using a syringe and you feel like maybe the glue isn't really getting in there a bit, you can just take one of your toothpicks, just try to work it in there a little bit. Again, you're not dealing with a ton of glue here, but just kind of massage some of the glue into the hole before you seat all 3, or however many it takes for you to fit the hole. Okay, so we're done with the first day. I've got the toothpicks in both locations. Both holes took 3. And cleaned up any excess glue that was forced out when I put the toothpicks in. So now we give the glue 24 hours to dry and cure. One note about the syringe, If you get it under some decent water pressure, clean it up, you can get the glue out and reuse it, or just grab a few from the pharmacy, but it will clean up. So yeah, we're done for today. We'll let it dry and come back tomorrow and finish it up. Here's the syringe after I cleaned it up in the sink. It took nothing more than water. You want to disassemble it, get some water inside of it, and force it out using the plunger. Repeat that several times. That'll clear out the tip of the syringe pretty well. You'll still have some that wants to collect around this ring. What I found that works to clean that out is to, still using some water inside the syringe, push that until it's all the way seated, and twist it, and that'll kind of scrub any remaining glue off of this part right here. And just keep repeating that, both cycling some water through it and kind of scrubbing at it with a twisting motion until it's pretty well cleaned up, and that'll allow you to save these and reuse them another time. If you're not sure what size drill bit to use for your pilot hole and you've got a piece of scrap wood, it's a good idea to just run a little test with the bit you intend to use. Drill the pilot hole and just see how your cabinet screw performs. So this is a good bit to use. It's producing clamping force, but I can put the screw into the hole without excessive effort. So I've got a good size pilot hole with that drill bit. If you can't do this, if you don't have the scrap wood, err on the side of using a smaller drill bit for your pilot hole. Chances are the screw that is in your cabinet hinge is pretty good at self-tapping, so it'll find its way in there. If you end up using a drill bit that's too big, you're going to find yourself right back at square one on this project, where the threads just aren't connecting with the wood in a way to produce the clamping force that'll provide a permanent fix to the cabinet door issue. So test your drill bit if you can. If you can't, go err on the small side. Fast forward 24 hours, the glue is dried and we're ready to finish up the project. The next step is to take whatever knife or blade you have and carefully cut off all 3 toothpicks extending out of the hole. The key here is to make sure you don't damage your cabinets. Do the same for the top. Okay, we're now ready to drill the pilot holes. Alright, so on our pilot hole drill bit, we've got the depth marked and we're ready to drill. With the pilot holes drilled, just give it a quick hit with the vacuum. We're ready to reinstall the door. I've got the door in position, and now we put the screws in. You don't want to over tighten these. Again, do this by hand, not with a power tool, just till you feel them nice and snug. And here's a look at the finished product. The doors are aligned nicely. no issues with it drooping or striking the other door. With this method, it will stay snug permanently. A couple quick things about the hinges. Your hinges may be a bit different, but mine offer, and most offer, some degree of fine adjustment so you can get your door lined up exactly the way you want it. And we've been working with this inner screw here to fasten the cabinet door to the cabinet. As you can see, that has some ability to adjust up and down depending on where you position the door when you tighten those screws. This one over here on the right moves the cabinet door in and out, increasing the size of this gap right here. By turning this, it'll push the door out or draw it back into the cabinet frame. And this screw right here will move the cabinet door left or right at that hinge point. Again, lets you get it aligned with the cabinet or another door and get it level, because the two act, of course, independently, so you can make adjustments on this particular screw to impact the tilt of the door. That's going to do it for this video. This is a cheap and easy way to permanently fix sagging doors and hinge screws that are constantly loosening themselves. With those screw threads now gripping the new material, they will stay put. This method can also be done with full-size interior doors, but it's a good idea to support the door from the bottom before detaching a hinge. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing to find your way back for more DIYs with practical ways to save time and money. Have a great day, and always stay focused.